The message reached Earth on a whisper of static and desperation. It wasn't meant for us. It wasn't meant for humans at all. It came from the Coalition of Nine, the so-called Guardians of Galactic Peace, the ones who swore they'd never stoop to asking humanity for help. They had better ships, better weapons, and better soldiers, or so they believed. But this was not a call of pride. It was the raw, unvarnished signal of a civilization watching itself die. The voice was broken by interference, yet its terror was crystal clear. Entire fleets had been swallowed in the dark, colonies stripped bare, star systems abandoned. A predator older than their empires had awakened in the void, and every attempt to stop it had only fed its hunger. The Nine had called every other ally, every warrior species, every power they could muster. One by one they fell, one by one they were consumed, until there was only one name left on their list. Us. They didn't call because they wanted us. They called because they had nothing left, and that's why we said yes. Not for them, not for gratitude, but because the thing that was coming would find Earth eventually, and we'd rather meet it on someone else's doorstep. Our ships weren't the sleek, perfect lines of coalition warcraft. They were patched hulls, reinforced plating, engines salvaged from scrapyards and battlefields. Our weapons weren't the elegant plasma arcs or gravity lances of alien fleets. They were cannons that fired until the barrels glowed, missiles that screamed through the void, and drones with just enough AI to die in our place. They sent us to the front like we were fodder, disposable, meant to buy the coalition time to evacuate more valuable worlds. What they didn't understand was that humans have lived on the knife's edge since we learned to walk upright. We were born in a world that wanted us dead. We thrived by adapting to threats faster than they could adapt to us. And when our backs were to the wall, we didn't just survive. We changed the rules of the fight. The first engagement was chaos. The predator ships, if you could call them ships, moved like living shadows, their hulls rippling as if woven from night itself. No heat signatures, no energy cores to target. They slid through debris fields and sensor grids like smoke. Coalition tactics relied on precision strikes. They had failed because there was nothing to lock on to. We didn't bother with precision. We carpeted the void in mines, electromagnetic snares, and clouds of shrapnel. We built kill zones so dense you could walk from wreck to wreck without touching vacuum. When they tried to flank us, we burned our own ships to cut them off. Coalition commanders called it reckless. We called it necessary. We lost half our fleet in the first week, but we took twice as many of the enemy with us. For the first time in months, the Predator advance slowed. For the first time, someone had bloodied its teeth. And that made it angry. It stopped picking off stragglers and came for us in force. A storm of living dark, hundreds of ships converging on our position in a tide that swallowed the stars. Coalition leaders begged us to fall back. Instead, we drove forward. We had one advantage left: human unpredictability. The Predators adapted to patterns, learning and countering every tactic thrown at them. So we stopped being predictable. We turned every battle into a brawl. We fought in asteroid shadows, inside the gravity wells of collapsing moons, in the upper atmospheres of gas giants where storms raged at 1,000 kilometers an hour. We weaponized chaos itself. It cost us everything. Friends, ships, whole squadrons vanished into the dark. But every time they came for us, we made them bleed for every meter of space. And somewhere in that endless storm of fire and death, the Predators hesitated. Maybe it was the mines they couldn't detect. Maybe it was the decoys that looked like crippled ships, but were crammed with enough explosives to crack a cruiser in two. Maybe it was the humans who'd ram an enemy head-on just to open a hole for their wingmates. But they slowed. And we pushed. It took months, but we drove them back system by system, world by world. We didn't just hold the line. We broke it. When the last of the Predators vanished into the black, the Coalition broadcast its thanks. Words of honor, promises of alliance, speeches about unity. But we saw the truth in their eyes. They weren't just relieved that we had won. They were afraid. Afraid because they had sent humans to die. And instead, they had seen what humans do when we refuse to lose. Afraid because they knew that if we ever turned that will on them, nothing in the galaxy could save them. We went home with half our fleet gone and the other half held together by stubbornness and scrap metal. And the galaxy learned a lesson they would never forget. You don't call humanity as your last resort, because when you do, we're not just going to save you. We're going to change the war.